coming on, you guys. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because it simply is so important. But before I dive into it, I want to, let me share my screen here and get rolling on. There we go. You guys heard that we resource worship teams. Now, I just need to say this caveat. In case my dog gets crazy, when there's cows that come and like roam in the thing next door, she goes crazy. So just try to ignore the barking dog if you can hear her a lot. Anyway, sorry. So we are an organization that loves to walk alongside and really partner and support and get to know, and not just like plug and play. Oh, this is our system. Do this thing, But we actually walk alongside of you as leaders. And so, thank you for allowing us to have this space to talk to you. There's three things that I have to tell you about before I dive into the content. So that is the worship fertilizer. So in 2009, that was our little logo with my guitar headstock on there. And I started writing, it was about once a month or so. And then in the last 3 years or so, I've been writing every week and sending out. Most of you probably receive the fertilizer. I love doing that. I love it so much that I put together this worship fertilizer book with the first 100 entries of the fertilizer. I went through and rewrote everything, re-edited everything, and put it into a book format. Has anybody got that book yet? I'm just curious. Nothing yet. Oh, look at Chris Mellon, the man.
But we want one.
Yeah. And then the last thing that I want to show you is something that is upcoming. It's just in the beginning dream stages, and that is a worship leader missional retreat in Costa Rica here next January 2022, called Oasis, and we'll spend some time in retreat. We'll spend some time helping churches in the area, spend some time enjoying the natural beauty of the country. Really excited about that. I don't have any more details to give you yet because they're still being worked out. But y'all are going to come down here, right? Yeah, you're in. That's awesome. All right, so diving in. We need to address a problem at the outset because there's something that's keeping you from being your best as a leader, as a worship team member, about bringing your best and feeling your best. Really, you're not thriving all the way like you could be because you don't understand a very important piece of how you are motivated, how your team is motivated, and how you're working well together. And that's kind of what this whole thing is about. It's going to help you understand the needs of your team, the needs of your congregation, your own needs, the needs of your church broadly, and how to bring the best to that. So we have a solution that we're calling the 5 faders. The 5 faders is basically it's basically going to be a mirror. Let me move you guys over here so I don't keep looking to the side because I'm annoyed by that. Sorry. I'll get myself set up here. All right. So I'm basically going to give you guys a mirror today, so that hopefully you can see yourselves in a more clear light. And for those of you who are familiar with the Enneagram, this is kind of like the Enneagram for worship leaders. And I say that, and I'm going to keep talking about worship leaders, but this is really for worship teams and techs. Everybody on the team has a fader. And can learn from this, and it's best when the whole team is doing this together. But so I want to clarify, the idea here is it's a question of motivation. It's this question here: what are you doing when you're doing what you're doing? In other words, what's motivating you to do what you're doing right now? What is it that you're thinking about and feeling, and often not even thinking about consciously? You have this something, and you're doing it because of this of the fader that is highest for you. It's not about what we're doing, it's about why we're doing it. These aren't like different hats that you're wearing. These are motivations or identities, just kind of the way you see the world are these faders. So broadly, what we're going to do is I'm going to go through each one just to clarify what it is, what each fader is, and then we're going to deep dive and look at them kind of comparatively, and then we're going to talk personally about where each of us are at. So jumping right in, here we go. The first one is the artist, because it begins with A, right? Just kidding. So artists want to create beauty. They want to express emotion through the music. They're really expressive people. They want to get some point across, and it's going to be an artistic point. It's going to be a musical point. There's going to be a feel to it, a color to it, a texture to it. We're going to think in these terms. Artists, we have a specific idea for how things will feel sonically. There's a certain tone, there's a certain sound, and we're just all about that idea, that feeling that's conveyed through that. There's a lot of emotion and passion put into the music, and they can get really wrecked or torqued if things don't sound right. And of course, we're going to be going through this, and you're going to think of yourself in certain moments. You're going to think of certain people on your team in certain moments. You're like, oh, that's them. And so that's good. That's your beginning to understand how this is going to work and then fit together when we put it all together. So that's a real basic overview of the artist. We'll go a lot deeper in a second. But the next is the shepherd, and the shepherd primarily cares. They care for people. That's just, it's obvious. It's just what they want to do. In fact, they'll adjust a rehearsal depending on how they read their team when they're walking into the room. The team walks in the room, they notice what's happening on the team, and they might alter their plan based on that. They might say, oh, you know what, let's just stop and do this first. Or they were going to do this one thing, but they're like, you know what, I'm seeing how you guys are acting, how you guys are responding. You know, I can feel that you're antsy to play. Let's just get in. You know, they'll change their thing because they care about people. They want to know that their people are comfortable. When they're asking for prayer requests, they'll ask specific things about their team. They'll say, hey, so, you know, Joe, how's your new job? You know, it's not like, hey, does anybody have any prayer requests? I have no idea what's going on in your lives, but because they're tracking. They've spent energy to get to know you. They're checking in, they're sending you texts, you know, and just checking in to see how you're doing. So that's an overview of the shepherd. The next is the priest, and you can think of this as this is the one that's really vertical. This is the kind of the pure worshiper, just Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus. Martha's screwing around, taking care of the details, and Mary's just like, I want to be with you, Lord. Stay here a while. Right? That's Mary. This is the priest. They can be very prophetic. There's a sense of, you know, what is God saying? What is God doing? What are the emotions of God? What does the scripture bring into this context? They can be this prophetic person, and they're thinking about not just playing their music, not just singing their songs, but doing warfare in that. There's this, everything is very connected to God. Like the veil is very thin for the priest. And they are insistent on doing everything that they're doing, every choice that they're making is to create spaces where people can meet God, not have a good feeling, not check something off the list, not accomplish the plan, but they want to meet God. If we don't meet God, nothing was worth it. That's the priest. Next is the educator. And the educator wants everybody to be well equipped. They just want everybody to know their stuff, to feel confident, to know what they're doing. They love the right way of doing things. And they want you to know how it all fits together. So they like to tell you what works and why it works and how it works and how this affects that. You know, they might get into theory, they might get into theology. You know, they'll tell you the story behind a song, and the scripture comes from. You know, these are your theologians. They want you to be well equipped in everything that you're doing, not just kind of fly by the seat of your pants and hope it's okay. That's the educator. And the last is the producer. They love to have a well-planned and well-executed service. They love that process of thinking, praying, discerning, getting these ideas together and putting it all together in a way that's like, oh, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be great. They love that to be well-planned and then also well-executed. It's a terrible thing to have this great plan and then it falls apart. It didn't work. Like, oh, you're killing me. This is the organizer. So you're probably a type A personality, and you're planned out months in advance. I don't know what's wrong with you people, but you love that. I'm just kidding. It's not one of the higher ones for me. So that's the 5 faders. That's a quick description of each of them. Let's talk about an example to kind of contextualize it a bit. Have you ever heard that's not how it's done on the recording, right? We've all heard that, and we have different reactions to that. But there's 5 different possible reasons why each fader would say that. So check this out. So the artist might say, hey man, the recording captures this energy. The way that the sounds come together are just beautiful. And did you hear the way that electric guitar was doing its thing, or that tom fill or that tom groove? We've got to do it like this. That's not the way they do it on the recording, man. It's just captures something, and we need to replicate that energy, that beauty. Come on, right? The shepherd figures, hey, the team might be thrown off and not feel as comfortable if we change something, because I gave them this recording to listen to, and if we're not doing it that way, they might feel uncomfortable, and I don't want that. I want them to feel like confident and secure, because I care about them. Whereas the priest might say, hey, listen, this arrangement, it allows our hearts to deep dive with God, and we'll lose that if we only do the bridge one time. It's got to be 4 times, y'all. We got to go big and go bold on 4 times on the bridge, because there's something that gets unlocked once we've repeated it a few times, and so that arrangement captures that, and so we want to do that arrangement. Whereas the educator says, listen, this is the original, and we need to stay true to the original. I can't tell you how irritated I was when Cutlass came out with King of My Heart after hearing the Sarah McMillan version. The wording, the rhythm is slightly different, and I'm just so irritated by that. That's a true story about me, but that's what an educator will say. It's not the original. It's not true to the original. It just misses that thing. And then the producer might say, hey, listen, the chart, it's what we're following here. And we've been working on this way for weeks, right? I mean, I have. It's been a long time. We've been planning. Don't change it up now. The chart, listen, follow the chart. So it's the same thing. It's the same question, but we are coming to it from completely different places. And I'm sure there's other ideas, other thoughts, other possibilities of why you would say that. But think about how different these ideas are, and they're as different as the people that have said them, that have thought them. So we're gonna go into next a deeper dive into what each one is like, and what we're gonna do is we have different categories, and for each, I'll show you for each one, and you'll be able to see them in context one with the other. And the first idea is really healthy versus unhealthy. Every fader can have a healthy expression and an unhealthy expression. So let's talk about what these are. So the artist is first, and the artist, when it's healthy, is a craftsman. You know what a craftsman does? A craftsman takes raw material. I got a pile of trash wood over there, and I've built all kinds of stuff in my house from that pile of trash. A craftsman is able to take raw material and create beauty from it, create usefulness from it. You can take a team of ill-equipped, of unprepared musicians and actually put something together that's beautiful. If you're an artist, you can figure out how to do that because you've got so much passion to make it work well. Unfortunately, you can also be a diva. You can be like, I've got this standard up here and you guys are way down here, and that's not okay, and I need just green M&Ms in the green room, right? Like, you can just be unbearable, intolerable, a jerk. Don't be that artist. A shepherd can be a pastor in the truest sense of that word, somebody who is able to care for the souls, the very lives of worship leaders and worship teams and techs. They care, and they can help people grow. as a shepherd, but they can also turn their little worship team into a clique, because they're so concerned about how people are doing and how they're thinking that we wouldn't ever want to let anybody else into this. They'll mess it up. So we're a clique. You know, if you go to the unhealthy version. A priest is a true prophet. You think about the ways that prophets have spoken in scriptures over the centuries, where at key moments they come in and say, this is the word of the Lord, hear what's going on, and they influence people into a certain direction that they would have missed otherwise. And in modern day, there's moments that we can completely miss, except for the priests that come in and say, let's just stop here for a second and be quiet, or let's, it's time to do this and such in our worship as a response to what God is saying and doing. But on the other hand, the priest can just be me and Jesus. So we get lost in love, and I don't know much. They got their eyes closed. The congregation checked out 20 minutes ago, and they're just loving Jesus. God bless them. Right? So that's the unhealthy side. The educator is a true mentor. And if you've ever had a mentor that's spoken into your life, that saved your butt from making all kinds of mistakes, that has really helped your life, you know how wonderful and beautiful and powerful a mentor is. And that's what the educators can become. They can be this amazing blessing to the team, to really help people be well equipped. But on the unhealthy side, they might start looking like your Facebook wall, telling you over and over and over what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, and why they're right, why they're right, why they're right. Why you're like, yeah, unfollow that. You know, you get so in tune with like, well, this is not the right way to do it, that you like block everybody out and you cut everybody off by your actions. That's the unhealthy version. And then lastly is the producer. And the producer in the healthy sense is an architect, y'all. Can you imagine what it is to take an idea out of your head, to put it into a design program or a drawing, and that actually can become a structure in the physical world? That blows my mind. It's such a beautiful thing to be able to do that, to have all those resources to take it from this idea place to the real world. But of course, if my plan isn't followed and I start micromanaging everything, I'm gonna become this dictator saying, no, this is the plan, and no, I'm not flexible. Don't even ask the question. This is what we're doing, done, end of story. It's my way, or you can pick any of the highways you want. So that's the comparison. So that's what we're going to do. We'd like to have like maybe 8 of these things where we go through each one and compare them. And you can see, if you have craftsmen, pastors, prophets, mentors, and architects on your team, that's a beautiful, strong team. Next idea is where am I focusing my attention? So as an artist, I'm focusing on the product. What are we producing here? What is the look of this thing? What is the feel of this thing? What is the end result? What's the shine on this thing? I'm focusing on the product. That's where my energy goes, my attention goes. A shepherd is putting their focus of attention on the people. I need to know what's going on with my people, and you're going to love this because they're all peas. I'm a good preacher some days. Priest is focused on the presence of God. We just want the presence. Not that we don't care about the people, not we don't care about the product. We just want the presence of God. That is the highest goal. That is what our focus is on. The educator is focused on the principles. Let's do these things well. Let's do them right. Let's know what we're doing. There are principles underlying everything that we're doing here, and we need to be in tune with those principles. And then lastly, the producer is focused on the process. How are we getting there? Here's our idea. What are the steps? What are the steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's get those steps numbered right. Let's get those things in order right, so we can get where we want to go. You know, these as we're thinking about these faders, one concept that's true about them is that there's this word that's translated, it's called metron. It's a Greek word, I think. There's an example of it in Romans 12:3. It says, "For by the grace given me, I say to everyone among you not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure or the metron of faith that God has assigned them." And this is kind of like your area of influence, your sphere of influence. If you're a shepherd, you're going to be the most influential and the strongest, and you're going to have the most fruit if you're operating really well in the shepherd fader. If you're being asked to kind of be more of an artist, that's going to be difficult for you, and you're not going to be as fruitful as if you could be fully in that metron, that sphere of influence, that natural artist piece. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later, what to do with that. Sorry, I was covering my microphone. Was it fuzzy a little bit or no? No? Good. All right. Excellent. All right. Next one is the characteristic, virtue, strength, or value. What do you bring to the team? What do you express? And so the artist is going to express and bring to the team beauty. Man, I want beauty on my team. I want beauty in my music. I want beauty in the ministry. I want beauty in the worship set. I want it all over the place. The shepherd is going to bring community. Say, man, let's be a family together, guys. Let's hang out. Like we're not just cogs in a wheel. We're not just like do. We have to get to know each other. How's it going? Let's do this thing. They're going to bring community. The priest is going to bring devotion. How can we have our hearts more given to the Lord? How can we be more sensitive to what God is saying? How can we just grow that intimacy? How can we be more devoted, more fully devoted to Jesus? The educator is going to bring wisdom. They're going to bring wisdom to say, man, what is the Lord saying on this? Let's be wise here. And the producer is going to bring excellence, because the producer is wired that way. He's wired for excellence. And if you think about all these things together, beauty, community, devotion, wisdom, excellence, that's a good and a beautiful team, isn't it, y'all? I love it. But we have some basic fears, each of these artists. So the artist fear is to sound bad or to look bad. I don't want to look bad. I don't want to sound bad. I want us to sound great. And man, if we sound cheesy, if we sound predictable, that's not what we want. Shepherd has a basic fear of hurting people or letting people down. I don't want you to be hurt. I don't want to let you down. And this can turn into people pleasing if it's on the unhealthy side. But at the core, it's like, I just don't want to let you down. I just don't want to hurt you. The priest says, man, I don't want to miss God. I don't want to just go through the motions. Oh, it's the worst thing in the world to go through the motions without any heart. Oh no, we can't do that. We'll miss God. We'll miss what he's saying. We'll miss what he's doing. The educator, I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to miss the point. I don't want to go through this and just be like off in my thinking, off in our actions. We don't want to be wrong. And then the producer doesn't want to look incompetent or miss the mark. They're going at something. They're aiming at something. And to look like you're a fool, like you don't know what you're doing. Oh man, come on. We can do better than that, people. Right? Primary energy is the next one. So the artist's primary energy, these are all I statements. So the artist says, I feel. That's what they're bringing in. The shepherd says, I care. The priest says, I love. The educator says, I equip. And the producer says, I do. I feel, I care, I love, I equip, and I do. And these are things, this is where my energy goes to. This is where the focus of my energy is on each of these things. That's cracking. Going fast. All right. The next one is my basic desire. So this is kind of encapsulated from what we talked about at the beginning. But to create beauty, to sound powerful, to express emotion through art, there's such a great desire and I'm so glad for each of these faders, but to sound powerful, to not just kind of strum through the song, like, no, there's more to it than that, y'all. The shepherd really wants us just to be together, to be a family, a community, to really share life, not just like, how are you doing? Good, I'm doing fine. But no, how are you really doing? Like we need to share life. We're in this together and we need each other. Let's be really together. And the priest wants to be with God, to linger in the transforming presence of God, just to be there and wait, sit at the feet, just to be with God. The educator wants to really bring out the best in others, to be fully equipped. I love I love that desire in the educator to bring out the best in others, and it's something that our teams need so much, because so often our confidence level is what keeps us from actually doing well, because we're just not confident enough in it. And if we have educators on our team to help us bring out the best in ourselves, in what God has already put in there, that's just beautiful. And then the last one, the producer wants to pull it off well, to be, this is the word, intentional, to be intentional in planning and in performance. To pull it off well, to be intentional in planning and in performance. The next one is a healthy sense of self. So what does the artist say when they're in a healthy place? The artist would say, I'm creative. That's who I am. That's how I see things. I am creative. And you need to know that that's the value I bring to the team. I'm this creative force, bringing ideas and new ways of doing things and nuance and all that. A shepherd says, I'm a safe place. You're going to be safe with me. I'm a safe place for you. You can be confident that I'm not going to take advantage of you. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm a safe place. The priest is going to say, I am wholly given to another. There's this givenness in this person. There's a it's not about me, it's this givenness to the Lord. The educator says, I'm wise. Yep, I've been given wisdom and I understand things and I can help give that. And the educator says, the producer says, I am prepared. I'm ready. I'm prepared. And let's do this in a prepared and a ready way. That's the producer. Let's do two kind of on the negative side pieces. So these are characteristic temptations or vices or flaws, or as the Enneagram says, the shadow side. So the artist can be perfectionistic, right? Everything needs to be just so. We're going to spend an hour on one song, or dare I say, part of one song. And we spend an hour getting that bridge just right. Again, no, again, no, again, let's try this, right? You can get into this perfectionistic mode, and it might not actually take an hour. You might only have taken 10 minutes, but internally you are dead. You are feeling dying because this is not right. This is not perfect, and I'm freaking out. But I know that we have to go on, right? But that's the shadow side. You have to keep that thing at bay if you're an artist. If you're a shepherd, you might just be oversensitive to everything that's said, all the needs that are there. You might carry this, this weight, and it's just like, but Joe is like, he's feeling, and we can't, man, I understand. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't let that shadow overtake you. The priest can get judgmental, because really the only thing that matters here, guys, it's God. And you're doing all this other stuff that's not God. And you know what your problem is? And they're suddenly like, oh, okay, that sounds like Jesus, brother, like, no, it doesn't. Oh, you've forgotten, and you've gotten in the place of being judgmental as a priest. As an educator, you can get into lecturing, dare I say, nagging your people about why it's important to show up on time, or about, fill in the blank. You can just get into this lecturing mode. I'm always telling you, I'm always blah, 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 blah. And you know what it sounds like to everybody else? Wah, 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 right? You don't want to hear it. And the producer gets into micromanaging every little detail, every little nuance, every little thing, every little time. Like, no, it was a minute and 22 seconds, not a minute and 29 seconds. Like, come on, man. Like, let's not get into the micromanaging. Actually, I'll take care of that because you're not going to do it quite as good as I can. So I'm just going to do it for you. Like, don't get into that micromanaging place. That's terrible. A key defense mechanism for each of these. These are interesting. The artist gets into this horrible place of contempt. Like, you unprofessional, wannabe amateur, no good, nothing. Come on, are you serious? Roll my eyes at your crappy licks, at your inconsistent drumming pattern, at your terrible tempo, at your don't you even care about good music? right? Like that's an awful place to land. But that's where because we care so much about that, we get into this place of you can't bring it like I bring it. Terrible. A shepherd gets into a place of mistrust. I mean, this is the person that cares for the sheep. Imagine you've gotten into such a dark place in defending the well-being of your flock, that you're not trusting people. Well, what did they say? And you can get into gossip. You can get into like trying to fix it all, trying to keep things safe, and just getting into this. Well, I'm not sure if I trust that person. Let's not do that. You know, like that's a bad place to land. The priest will get into isolation, because really we don't need you guys. It's just us and God. It's just me and Jesus, right? So okay, nobody shows up, no problem. I'm just going to be just me and Jesus. It's all we need. Thank you, Lord. Help these other people so far from you. The educator can get into debates. Well, no. Hold on a second, Fred. I need to tell you why that's wrong. Like, really? Do you really? I don't think so. Not always. Sometimes. Not always. And the producer just gets into control. Man, everything is locked down. My white knuckles locked down. No option for change. Absolutely not. This is my space. I'm controlling this puppy. Don't change a thing. For those of you who have heard of the DISC, there are some DISC correlations, but however, not for the artist. There's only 4 and there's 5 faders, so it fits that the artist would say, look, don't box me in like that. That's no, I'm too creative for that. I have no box. But the others do kind of track pretty well. The shepherd is like the S, which is the steadiness piece in the DISC. The priest is the influencer, the I. The educator is C, or conscientiousness, all the details. And D is the producer, the dominance. We have the plan, and here's where we're going to go. Let's make some more decisions. So that's it's an interesting correlation. And I should say, here's one of the many learnings from the faders. If you've ever taken the DISC test, when you get it's a personality testing system. When you get the results, you usually get two lines on the graph. One is your natural, like the way you are naturally, and the other one is your adapted, like how you've adapted to fit your situation. And usually, you want those to track along kind of evenly, but sometimes you'll go here and the next one is like really far apart, like the natural and the adapted are very different. In other words, what you naturally are, you're having to adapt so that you can fit the role. That is an indication that there's likely a lot of stress in your life because of that. Okay, so that idea applies also to the faders, because if you're in a place where you're a priest and maybe the team or the Sunday or the song or the church is a producer, that's a big gap. You can probably do it. You can pull off anything you need to pull off, but it's going to stress you. You might be this artist who's like wanting to do these things, and you're in a church full of priests, and they're like, I don't understand that. Why would you be so artistic? It's just, you don't need to do that. It's like, okay, I'll turn that back down and shrivel inside and feel stressed out. So there's something to learn about, the environment that you're in versus what you are naturally. All right, let's keep going. We have 2 more. The hidden complaint. Every fader has a hidden complaint, and the artist says, man, the church music must regain its prominence in the world of art. We are going to be once again the famous sculptors and the famous artisans and the famous composers of centuries past. The church will be that again. We're going to do that with our art and in the church. The shepherd says, man, can't we just get along? That's really what I wish would happen. I mean, that's really what I just wish things would change to become. Like, can't we just get along? The priest says, man, honestly, all this stuff, all this technology, it's just getting in the way. Can we stop with the click? Do we have to have the words to the ProPresenter, by Thursday? I don't know what the Lord is going to say until I'm in the song. The educator, I can poke fun because I am. The educator says, man, if you just knew what you were doing, if you just knew what you were doing, this would go better, right? Wouldn't that be nice? Bless your heart. And then the last one, the producer, flying by the seat of your pants is really just filling your pants. Grow up, man. Stop it. Stop trying to like make it all up as you go. You're just filling your pants. It's just a mess. Just grow up already. I don't have enough diapers around here for you. That's the complaint. That's some of the angst that's in the craw of the producer. All right, and last one, and this is admittedly tongue in cheek, but of course every fader has their favorite music. And so maybe the artist is a Bethel, or maybe some indie thing that you've not even heard of. That's probably the thing that's the most true right there. The shepherd might be a vineyard, something kind of fatherly, something that is very community oriented. The priest could be into house fires, or Maverick City. The educator is probably into Sovereign Grace or some hymns, or the Gettys, kind of along those lines. And the producer is probably into Elevation, well done, hot, powerful stuff. All right. So we're going to go next into a section about how to get along with each of the faders. Again, we're just trying to, I'm going to keep talking, and we'll explain a little bit more later. So here's how to get along with an artist. These are a few ideas. Show up with your parts learned. Please learn your parts, learn your stuff, and show up that way. Ask me if what I just did felt musical. If I sang or played something, did it feel musical? Like, really? You just asked me that question? No, it didn't. Or yes, it did. Like, that's just, I'm so glad you said that. Bring creative ideas to me. Listen and respond to each other in the band musically. You can't make music if you don't listen and respond. Otherwise, it's just a one-way conversation. It's not a conversation. It's a one-way conversation. That's not a conversation. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. I love this one. Act like a pro. Work hard to create beauty. I always remember in college, I was in choir, and we did some challenging music, but it was wonderful that what we came up, what the result of all that work. Like, we would spend weeks just going over hacking into these parts and these weird intervals and these weird, what do you call it? It's been too long. Anyway, it was hard work, but it would be so amazing at the end. Get better at your own craft. Always bring your personal best. You're not going to be perfect. You're not always going to be, you're not going to be anybody else, but just bring the best of you. Ask me if you're not sure what to sing or play. I have plenty of ideas for you. Ask for my feedback when you're mixing. Hey, did you like that? Did you, here's what I'm hearing. Here's what's coming. I love that. And take musical risks and musical direction. How to get along with a shepherd. Open up to me. Let me care for you. Please care for the folks on our team. Look to me for spiritual guidance. Let's hang out. Like, really, like, let's do some of these things together. But and when I, as a shepherd, see my team caring for each other, that's like the best thing in the world. It's amazing. How to get along with a priest. Always sing when you're up front. It always bugs the priests when somebody's up on stage and if they're playing an instrument and they're just waiting for their time to play, if they're not coming in yet. Man, if I see you singing, it's just like, yes, you're there, you're engaged, you're with it. I love that. Break open your heart's alabaster box every time you lead. Spoken like a priest. Nurture your own worshiping life at home for the love of God, literally. Nurture your own worshiping life at home. Plan an unplugged worship night and invite me. Flow with me when I go off script. I might do that. Learn to play and sing prophetically. Learn to be spontaneous and to let stuff come out of your own heart. How to get along with an educator. Learn and grow. Number one, take responsibility for your own growth. Please learn, please try, please learn, please get better, please understand, right? Learn and grow. It's really important to me. Ask me to explain things to you, to tell me how something works. Ask me where it's found in scripture. I love looking things up for you. Tell me about the next local training event. Let's all grow together. look to me for insight, maybe bring a video series for us to go through at rehearsal and say, hey, can we learn this thing? Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be awesome. Thank you. How to get along with the producer? Respond to the PCO email, please. That's enough. Stay on schedule. Please remain in your allotted time. We have a plan here. Come on, you can do this. You said yes. So show up when you said you would, preferably early. You know, for some people, 10 minutes. If you're less than 10 minutes early, you're late. And offer to help. How can you get involved? So, all right, that is the descriptions of everything. Let me see. How are we on time here? I can't even see. We're good. What time is it?
It's 11:20.
Perfect.
Where we are, so I don't know what it is there.
That's great. Yep. Okay, so here are 3 big ideas. There's a lot of details and information we just covered. There's 3 really main important ideas about the faders and how to implement this, how to make it helpful and useful for your team. All right. So the first big idea is self-awareness, because if you're not aware of what your fader is, where you're high, where you're low, where you're at, if you're not aware of that, then there's no way to be the best version of yourself. You just kind of keep trekking along, getting annoyed at people, or you know, being kind of halfway at this thing, or not celebrating the artist piece, or not celebrating the educator piece. You're like, yeah, I'm a worship leader, but I got this thing, and I'm always like irritated about this. I'm like, no, listen. There's a value in how you're wired. And there's a healthy expression of that, like we explored. Like, we can go somewhere beautiful and powerful, but not if we're not aware of that. So being self-aware of who we are is number 1. Number 2 is to value each other. I hope you can see how amazing in this context having all 5 faders on your team is. If you have a healthy balance of all those faders, fantastic team, man, it's just so amazing. And the team is going to be healthiest if you value and you express that value to them of what they bring, especially when it's not what you bring. You know, it's like, oh, hey, drummer, you know, you're so anal about everything. No, let me try that again. Man, I just really appreciate how prepared you are and how dedicated you are to get this music right. I never have to worry that you won't be there and you won't have your stuff learned. That means a lot to me. Like, if I'm a priest and I have a more of a producer drummer that always shows up with their stuff just ready, and I'm just like, you know, you could play kind of whatever and I wouldn't care. But no, listen, I never have to worry. It's always going to feel just right. It's going to feel just like the recording. That's actually really beautiful. Thank you for doing that. Like, I would never do that. You know, when I'm not leading, I listen to this stuff on the way to church, and yeah, I got it. Right. So it's really the spirit of honor that we're talking about here, to be able to celebrate people's gifts and people's wirings. So that's a really important part. And then the third thing is you need to practice active mixing. From the sound world, that means it's not set it and forget it. It's not like you have one level on this fader and that's all the further it goes and that's it. You have to do active mixing, because here's the real deal. What does love require of me in this moment is a question that I have to ask. I have to ask all the time to understand, okay, I have to shove my educator fader up right here because maybe I'm a priest and I feel like I want us to do some spontaneous singing, or I want us to, you know, do something different. I want us to do, you know, let's say some spontaneous singing. Well, my congregation has no clue about that. No clue at all. They don't know what I'm doing. They're like, did the projectionist stop? You know, did the computer freeze? What are we supposed to do here? I don't even know. This is really awkward. Should I sit down? You know, Where if you said, hey, I'm going to get to my priest fader in a second, but let me push my educator fader up just a little bit and say, hey guys, Psalm 124 says, sing unto the Lord a new song. And that might feel really weird to you. I'm sure it's going to feel awkward at first, but just maybe open up your Bible. And, Psalm 103 was a great place to do that. Open up your Bible and just kind of sing some of these things. It's just really weird. This is like an experiment. Don't mind us. We're just trying some things out here. And we're going to do this morning. A tiny something to give them something to, oh, let's sing a new song to the Lord. Let's sing spontaneously. That's bizarre and weird. Okay, maybe it's not so bizarre and so weird. He's kind of making it normal for us. All right. He's showing us how to do it. Okay. I'll try maybe, like a whole different world. But what could happen is like, and we were singing and I looked out at the crowd and they were doing this. They missed God completely. Those insensitive heathens, like, no, I just didn't educate them. So there's always a sense that love is requiring something of us, and that's why we have to do active mixing. We have to learn how to shove faders up and down as is needed. And you think about a good mix, a good sound mix, doesn't mean they're all even. That might sound terrible. Probably will sound terrible. Like, do you ever look at a soundboard and they're all even? No way. They're all up and down. They're all constantly being moved around. At least if Tony's mixing, they're always changing. And so that's going to be true for these faders. And it feels important to dispel a myth that we might be thinking about, and that is that artists have this natural bent to make music great, right? And you might be thinking that priests are going to make terrible music, educators' music is going to be boring, shepherds' music is going to be mamby-pamby. It's just not going to be good. And that's not true at all. Here's the reality. Every fader has to do everything. It doesn't matter what your fader is. Every fader has to build relationships, has to make quality music, has to be easy to work with. We all have to do these things. That's why these aren't hats to wear. These are motivations. But every fader has to do all this stuff. You have to make great music. That's part of our role. We don't get to make lousy junk music in the church, right? Sorry, it's not part of the. Oh yes, you're allowed because it's church. Shut up. So, sorry. So everybody's got to do everything. You just have to figure out how to do that. So as I want us to kind of switch into some more personal stuff. So I'm sure you're typing yourself already, and you know exactly what type you are, and some of the most obvious types on your team. But which of your faders are the highest? What would you say is like the highest one? You have to unmute yourself to actually, or you can say this. Artist. Anybody who's artist highest? 0. Shepherd. 1. Priest. 3. Educator. 1. And producer. Okay. So and it is very normal to be 2, as kind of like these are, like for me, I am a priest. Secondary is artist. That's my wiring. So that's helpful to know, and to begin to look at, okay, what is the best version of myself and what am I actually bringing, so you can go back and look at and I can actually send you notes with all these broken out, so you have them as a reference. But you can go back and look and say, okay, I'm an artist, and what I'm bringing to the table is beauty. And I like that. Okay, so how am I going to do that this week? I can start thinking about creative ways of actually doing that, of actually being more of myself. That's there's this I can't remember what the lady's name is. Somebody on the internet that wrote a book. It's awesome. Says the world doesn't need us to be like everybody else. They need us to be more of ourselves. So what's your gift? What's your bent? Do more of that. Push that fader higher. If you've been like I'm an artist, but I've never gotten it over 6, man, jam that thing to 10. Let's have some artists here, but do it in the healthy way. That, right? So that's helpful. That's a first helpful thing. The second helpful thing is, so what's your lowest fader? And this is also instructive. It's kind of like it's difficult to discern all the inner ones, but the highest and the lowest is pretty easy to be like, yeah, I got nothing of that, or that one's pretty low. So who would say my lowest is artist? All right, and my lowest is shepherd. I'm actually raising my hand on that one. My lowest is priest. Right. My lowest is educator. And my lowest is producer. Okay, Lord, thank you for these confessions. We pray that that's great. That's great. And so beginning to understand, okay, like I'm just not wired to think about. I remember Jen, when we were sitting in the room and what's his name? All I could think of is Landon. That's not his name. What
She put the name Matt in the chat room.
Matt? No, the dude with
Lyndon.
Lyndon. See, Landon was close, but I could not think of Lyndon's name. He was the guy that actually said, yeah, when I watch my team as they're walking into rehearsal and I read their body language and I make adjustments based on them. I was like, I have never thought of that in my life. Like, if you're crying and you're coming in, I'm like, huh, what's wrong with them? It's like, are you all right? Okay, let's go. Let's start. Like, man, shepherd is not on my radar screen naturally, but love requires of me to raise that fader up and down. So here's the way to implement some of this, or to get better at some of this. And you might have to talk to your team to get this, but find somebody who is high where you're low. Find somebody who is, if you're not an artist, who's an artist, and ask them questions like this. How do you prepare before rehearsal? What do you do? And just listen to their thought process. Listen to how they listen to the music, work on stuff on their own. Like, what are you thinking, artist? What do you do you listen to 10 different arrangements of the song? Is that what you do? Because you want to get some different ideas? Do you not listen to anything because you just want to show up and play what feels right according to the team, because you want to be musical, and it is there's a spontaneous improvisational thing that you don't want to ruin the magic. So you don't listen to a thing. You just show up and you play what feels right. Right? I mean, is that how you think? Or if your low one is priest, talk to a priest and say, so what are you thinking during a service? Where's your brain at during the service? What's capturing your attention? What's taking your energy? What are you thinking about? Or tell me about music and your relationship with God. How are those two intertwined? Just start asking questions to find out from these other high faders where you're low, what they're like, how they think, and you'll be amazed at the insight that you'll get from just hearing from others and hearing, oh wow, like I never would have thought to do that. I mean, if you're not a producer, like ask your producer friend, okay, so give me your, like, a month out from the service, what are you thinking about? What are you doing? What are you planning right now? Because I'm literally like, hey, if you wait until the last minute, it only takes a minute, right? Procrastinating kind of, I don't need to be pre-planned. So that's a great way to get stronger where you're not. And so let me go to this next one here, and let's rate ourselves. So we talked about which fader is highest, but let's take that fader and rate ourselves for a second. if 10, if I'm an artist and 10 is like the most resourceful, the most integrated, and the most healthy, and 1 is the most unresourceful, the disintegrated, and the most unhealthy version of that fader that is my highest, where would I rate myself? And it's wonderful to put an actual number to this unvoiced thought you've had in terms of what your fader is. So just, I mean, take a second and think about that. Where am I right now? Do I feel like if I'm an artist, I'm probably a 9. I feel really great, really put together, really healthy. Or is it like, what? I'm probably a 5, or a 3, like in terms of my level is really high, but I'm not very resourceful. I get mad really easy when things don't go well, when they don't sound right, when, fill in the blank. I feel really like I'm not myself, or I feel like every time I lead and every time I lead a rehearsal and every time I plan, I just feel healthier. I feel better. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Like those are all indicators on kind of in your highest spot or in your highest fader, how healthy are you? So what's one way then, the next question, that you could become a better version of yourself? And is there anything that's keeping you from that? Is there a responsibility? Is there a relationship? Is there a task? Is there a schedule, a rhythm, a flow? Like what? Is there a culture that's keeping you from that? If you're, for example, if you're newer on a team, and let's say you got to that church and you're more of a priest than the team is, the team feels like they're very nominal-ish and they're not very deep, and you want to help yourself get healthier because you're feeling like, man, I can't be myself. And so I feel like a really disintegrated priest right now. I'm a high priest, but I'm really disintegrated because of my context, the team that I'm on. How am I going to do that? Or maybe I'm a really high artist and, my team is not an artist, and I need to figure out how to get them higher. And that's really keeping me from doing that. And maybe, I've heard of some worship leaders that have said, I'm in this other band outside of the church to be my artistic expression, so I don't get frustrated in the church because my team's not there yet. And if I brought what I'd want to bring, they're just not ready for that, in time, but not right now. So I'm in a band. I don't know. So if there's one choice you could make to get yourself a little bit healthier, what would that be? And then the last question, is thinking of your lowest fader, and then thinking of somebody that might have that lowest fader as their highest fader, and getting together. Some of the questions that I have for discussion, and we have probably, I'm guessing 20 minutes. Yeah, roughly. That's my internal clock talking. It's my internal worship leader clock. Yeah.
Nice.
That was amazing. What would make you say that about a rehearsal? So a couple of you unmute yourselves, and what would make you say that was amazing about a rehearsal? What happened? And also tell us what your high fader is, or maybe we should guess.
Well, I can think of a scenario where we have a guitar player. First of all, let me tell you, I'm a shepherd producer. Shepherd being the strongest. I'd say you have 2 guitar players, and rather than being in competition with each other, one helps the other with, I'm trying to learn how to play this particular chord. It's odd and unusual. Like in the song "Open Up the Heavens," there's like a minor 11th or something like that. How do you do that? And one guy says, well, here, do it like this. This is the fingering. You could do it this way or this way. And they, instead of the guy letting him struggle, the guy who knows more helps the guy who knows less. And that's an amazing portion of a rehearsal that's really cool to see.
That's great. Good.
Yeah, I would say something similar. First of all, Dave, this information is very, very timely. So thank you for everything. It's amazing. I think obviously producer is my highest, educator is very, very close behind. And I don't have enough time to spend on my craft to be feeling like I'm an artist in that sense. But rehearsals that are amazing are when the team exceeds expectations. You know, we look at a team of all the various teams we have that come together and have an inclination, this is the strongest team. It may be the factors of whatever the music is or how everyone's weeks are going, they're a little down. But sometimes we have teams, they're newer people, maybe a little more unknown, and the music far exceeds what we were expecting, and more than that, the connectivity between everybody. We just feel like we've been together for 10 years. And I think when we walk away and go, wow, that was amazing. I think it's that truth that everyone really deeply connected and the music reflected that.
Yeah, yeah. Which I'll just highlight, a producer has expectations,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So you can't have those exceeded if you don't have them. So you walked into the thing thinking, okay, here's where I'm hoping we're going to be at. And it was like, oh, it was better than that, you know. But the priest might walk in, I mean, with expectations on some level, but not in that frame necessarily. So that's cool. What else? What, maybe one more?
I can go.
Yeah.
I am high fader priest through and through. For me, the best worship rehearsal would be everybody meeting with the Lord and having just an incredible time of worship, and it being, you know, maybe somebody leading spontaneously during practice, maybe like those kind of things would be, yeah, my expectation is, you know, would be, hey, let's meet with the Lord.
Yep. I know this is rehearsal, but let's go ahead and do it for real.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. That's I love that. I love how it's different, you know, and the scary thing is that we walk into every rehearsal with those different thoughts. Everybody on the team is different. And so this language, you know, for one, this, when we work through this with the team, this language gives us ability to talk about it, you know, and to stay on the same page with things. So how do you prepare for rehearsal? Just do a couple of those from different faders. How do you get ready? And you know, you could say I'm a this and this is what I do. Kind of try the brief truncated version. Like what sounds the most artist of your preparation? What's the most of that? Or the most shepherd, or the most, go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, I'll share something. I'm high priest and educator, I think. And the way I prepare, it's funny. When you said something like, I don't even listen to a version, I just listen. That's kind of what I do. I do try to prepare for the team's sake, a specific arrangement, but I'm always thinking of like, what part of the song do I really think God wants us to dive into this week? How can we repeat that more or something like that? So I try to make an arrangement where we highlight that. And then I really love to tell the team like why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I don't know that they care most of the time, but like just try to prepare how I'm going to pass that information along to them too.
That's cool. I mean, it makes me think, I do that too. I often will think, okay, this is the, not the God song, but this is a song that feels like it has the most fire, the most weight, the most like impact this week. Where I was like, Lord, where do you want me to put that? Like, do we just want to dive in with that song? Like, just start with that? Like, why would you wait? Or should that be like 3 songs in,
right,
and then like, boom? But that's literally how I'm thinking. Like, it's like this. It's not even like a tempo thing necessarily or a newness thing. It's just like this is the song with the weight. Where should it go in the set? Yeah. It's a very priest way of thinking about it. Somebody else? What do you do to prepare?
I think I'm pretty sure I'm a strong producer first, because everything you mentioned is everything that I care about. But most of that happens prior to rehearsal. Most of it happens so that rehearsal can make sense. And we do some things in our music department that other people on our staff don't understand, like planning 6 weeks ahead and planning every detail of every song 4 weeks ahead, and knowing every transition and every chorus and every vocalist and every camera change 4 weeks ahead. And Darren can affirm that because he's in those planning meetings. But so to me, in that producer mindset, without that, I am terrified of rehearsal without having those things answered. And so to answer your first question, in that light, what do I see a successful rehearsal being? Because I'm a pastor first, and my producer personality has to fall within being a pastor. Shepherd and priest have to be part of me. I mean, obviously they're a part of me. It's my Holy Spirit calling to be a shepherd and a priest. But so I see those things being executed and people leaving rehearsal not mad or sad, but happy. So if all of those things have executed and people are still in a good mood, then it's a successful rehearsal. Because those things can execute well and people can leave pretty ticked off. So
yeah, I need to show you guys this. Share. This is an email I got this week from a church we're working with, and these are the details after rehearsal for Sunday's stuff.
Dave, I'm not sure if I'm the only one, but I'm not seeing your screen shares.
Oh, you're not? Oh,
If
you're
I'm
not?
the only one, then it's fine. But
Is everybody else seeing my screen shares?
I see it.
Yeah. Okay.
everybody else is saying yes, so I'm okay.
Okay.
I'll look at it later.
Okay. So as a producer, you're saying, "Oh, thank you, Lord Jesus. This is amazing." And as a priest, I'm like, "Dear God, what is this? I can't even hold this all in my head. How would I even? Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah. No way. Like, it's just freaking me out." Isn't that great though?
Wow.
I appreciate it. All right. Let's do another question. I think this is interesting. What happens internally after a service? Where's your head? What's in your feeler? What are you thinking about after the service is done?
Was my team able to worship during worship? Because if they were able to enter in during worship, then I'm good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say this is healthy, but I'm thinking, did the people like what I did?
Yeah, which is I think it's part of the shepherd, that identity of people pleasing is rolled up into there, often. It's like the one side of the coin that's beautiful on the other side. So
I think as an educator, strength, fader, the first thing I think about is walking off the platform, recalling how everything went. Did everybody, all the preparation, all the music preparation, give people that platform for success? Did they, like David said, did they feel, whether it's rehearsal or the service, did they feel filled with joy about doing what they just did? Knowing the reaction of the congregation is always going to be, yeah, they definitely were singing very loud. They were worshiping. So that part was great. But each individual, did they have success in executing their role, their craft? And that's why I'm always looking around like, he looks a little down or she looks a little mad, and why? Is there something we can do better next time?
yeah. Interesting. Somebody else after the service is over?
I think I'm trying to evaluate, did the plan land? And the way to quantify that is to evaluate if the people in the room were visibly worshiping.
Yeah. That's, I love, you know, the more I have chances to teach this, the more I get more vocabulary. You know, did the plan land? That is the real question. And even like your whole preparation for rehearsal, the preparation is with big letters, so that, you know, we avoid a whole slew of things at rehearsal. We have a great time. Like, there's a big reason that all of this goes into before. It's a big so that, and then did it land? Did it work? It's a very
Yeah,
producer.
that's the key. Quantifiably, it's so that the guy who I know is struggling with the loss of a son in row 4, if he's visibly worshiping, okay, the plan is the plan is
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, you know, this is a bit of a function of priest, but I'll often kind of my first debrief is like, Lord, did you like that? You know, were you honored by that, Lord? Like, it's a real, like a real personal, intimate question. Like, you know, I know it went great. I know, you know, people like this. I know we screwed up on that. I know, you know, I know these logistical things. I know what the crowd was doing, but Lord, did you like that? Did you enjoy that? You know, it's a very priestly kind of question. Um, talk for a second anonymously about a fader on your team that is just like either has graded you the wrong way and now you have some context for it and have more grace for that person, and like, or have at least some hope for working better, you know, as you've probably thought about them, you know, certain things like, oh, that person, yeah, my goodness. Is there something along those lines that you're thinking about, that you can apply this to anonymously? Well, Joe is really a big jerk. Sorry, just kidding.
I can definitely say I think first starting out in music ministry, my fader for artists was at 10, and others that had faders that were more in line with shepherd or priest as it relates to the other volunteer artists in the congregation. I just, you know, being accepted as an artist, and that has shifted dramatically to producer, educator, and caring more about everybody else. So I look at, of course, David's mentorship with some other people on the team that have shown me that, because their faders are, like you said earlier, their other faders are much higher. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that definitely has pushed my faders around a little bit. And I resented those people maybe at first, but now I look to them also as mentors, source of strength.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody else? I mean, I think that it is our goal. Our goal isn't this faders all across it even. You know, we're always going to have stuff that's higher, but our goal is to be able to move appropriately. So.
I know that at a previous church where I was a part of the worship team, there was definitely one of the worship leaders was high producer. Like, I don't know how much of the other stuff even applies to him, but initially when he first started leading, it was a really big struggle. It was a really big struggle. Like, even just the rehearsals were hard. Like, I would leave and want to like cry on the way home. Like, they were that hard. Getting to know that person and understanding like this is his heart. It's not, you know, he's not a big jerk. He doesn't, you know, he's not there to hurt my feelings. Like, that's not it at all. Like, he actually, I don't know, like God had to deal with my heart a little bit with my relationship with him, and how I perceived him. And once that shifted, like he was able to actually speak into my life and bring out so much better musicianship than I think would have happened organically. Like he was able to speak to things that I wouldn't have thought about, because he saw things differently. Does that make sense? And so like now he's like, I adore him. He's a dear friend. But initially, like I had people contact me after worship practice and be like, are you okay? Like he was really hard on you, and like that kind of stuff. And, you know, initially I was like, yeah, big jerk. But after God dealt with my heart, it was like, no, I wasn't offended at all. And I didn't even think that he was being hard on me. I just thought he was, you know, sort of mentoring me. So, yeah, this sort of happened before Dave came along. And, but when we kind of put words to it, I remember, you know, sitting at a meeting with all our worship leaders, and we kind of like were sort of working this whole thing out, like realizing like, oh, he's a producer. This is what's important to him. Oh, that makes so much more sense now why he came across in such a way. Does that, yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, the reality is, until we identify and have language for what other people bring, we can't even appreciate it. You know, I mean, it's difficult to appreciate it. That's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this, because the unity that can come because of this, the better teamwork with the community, the understanding, the honor that comes because, oh, I understand. I never even had a box because the faders are so foreign. You know, your fader is so foreign from my fader that I can't even imagine that's a fader. You know, you're just an idiot, or you're just weird or different, you know? But like, oh, wait a minute. You bring this thing, you have this value to our team. Now suddenly I can honor that. You know, I didn't know. And that's super exciting. Other examples or other questions?
Hey, we had when I was at the church back in Pennsylvania, had a couple of worship leaders that served basically under me. And as I watched one who was like an artist off the charts, his rehearsals would take 2 hours when we capped it at an hour and a half, but he would always just push and push. And like the first song would take 40 minutes for whatever reason. It's like he wanted it to be perfect. And I have to say that I never was able to break him of that, because he was so committed to the thought that this is how it has to be. And so most of the time I ran sound on the nights when I was not part of the team. And when he would be on as a leader, like some of the people in the band really appreciated it. And other people in the band were like, please don't put me on with him anymore. And so it's really hard to, I don't know, to break any of us of our bent. Like I'm a sort of a shepherd off the charts, and this guy's an artist off the charts, and we have such a different approach to people. And so could you talk to us a little bit about how to bring someone else to the point of recognition that they need to pull their fader back a little bit? How do you do that? Is it just conversation, or is it something more than that?
Well, remember, the number one big idea is self-awareness. If I don't know who I am, that I'm an artist off the charts, then I can't do anything about that. But my next thought is, so David, fix the artist. As a producer, what's he doing wrong? There's no reason it should take 40 minutes to do a song. Absolutely not. I don't care what's the problem that happened before rehearsal started. As a producer, what would you say?
Were you going to speak, David?
Me?
Yeah.
Were you asking me that question, Dave?
Yeah,
I couldn't tell if you were talking to yourself in the third person, or if you were asking me.
So, Dave. Well,
Okay.
now that we're here.
Yes. Yeah.
So no, like as a producer, thinking as a
Yeah.
producer, what did that artist do wrong? Why did it take him 40 minutes, or potentially, what could he have done wrong?
Sure. The artist needs to be able to come prepared, and I think if artists are coming prepared, and actually, isn't that what you said? How to get along with the artist? Show up prepared. Too often we are not willing to be direct with our people and be direct with our artists and say you need to prepare at home, and if we've done everything we can as your leaders to prepare you with information on the key of the song, the arrangement of the song, the best place to listen to the version that we're going to approach, then you need to show up and be ready to go, and maybe in 20 minutes have that song ready, and finished, rehearsed. So yeah, I have to admit that we've had songs take 40 minutes before too, 45 minutes, because most specifically because people are showing up unprepared.
Yeah.
And that inevitably leads to leaders not necessarily scheduling them to lead songs or play those parts. And we don't want that to happen, because we want people to be a part of it, and we want people to be cared for, and we want to use their gifts. But yeah, people need to show up prepared.
Yeah. And I mean, this is,
sorry. I was the last thing I would say to that, there's a caveat. As the leader, you need to not force everybody else on the team to wait for that person to prepare for 20 minutes so that you can execute the song for 20 minutes. So that it stinks, because it's a give and take.
Right. Well, and if you're thinking in terms of faders, if you have an educator and producer fader available to you as an artist, and you do, my choir director in college always talked about, before you come to rehearsal, we're gonna practice, these 2 or 3 pages of the music. I am, as the leader, am gonna look through the music. I'm gonna look for trouble spots, and I'm gonna figure out a couple strategies to fix those. So if I know, like in the choral setting, that the tenors and the altos are coming and they're hitting this interval, and it's kind of hard to hear it, I'm going to have a couple strategies to help teach that to them, so it's not a problem. Like I already have that. So in our world, I'm gonna, when I'm going in, especially, I get to lead worship at a lot of places where I don't know what the skill level of the team is. Right? I have no idea if it's going to be like, I've got a producer drummer, this is like amazing, or like, here's where you hit the snare, buddy. Here's where it is. Come on, just like I'm having to, like, I'm in both situations. So what I have to do, though, for me to be prepared as an artist, because I care, as a priest artist, I care about the music. I'm going to listen to that music, and I'm going to say, what's driving the song? What needs to happen here? Okay, let me, because I don't know the drummer, and I've done this multiple times, because I don't know the drummer or the bass player, and this song really needs a certain thing. What's the pattern on the different sections? How does it change when it goes into the chorus? When it starts to feel like it does this, why is that? Oh, it went from like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 and 4 for the kick, to like 4 on the floor, and that little change made the whole difference in the world. And that's going to lift the song, or whatever the thing is, or the bass player is going to go to 8th notes, or what. I'm going to listen to that, and to the song in that detail, and I'm going to write some notes on my chord chart, so that when I show up, if things aren't going right, I'm going to listen for those things, and I'm going to, oh, okay, so I can fix that, because I'm an artist, but I need to be prepared to be a producer, to have all the details in ready, and I need to be prepared to be an educator, to show you, okay, so to get this lift to feel, switch to the 4 on the floor on the chorus. Problem solved. It didn't like derail us, but I had to do that work as the leader, bringing that in so that things didn't fall apart, and it still felt awesome. A lot of work.
One of the odd things with our situation back there was that the guy who ran the 2-hour rehearsals, or 2-hour and 15-minute or whatever it was rehearsal, the music wasn't appreciably better than the guy that ran a 50-minute rehearsal. That always blew my mind, because how could they have put in so much more effort on this to get an equal result? And it wasn't because the talent was different. It was the same talent kind of. In fact, maybe less in some of the other situations. And so it was just a really hard thing. And as a shepherd, watching the thing happen, I'm feeling it for my people, like the people that are like struggling through that rehearsal. I'm like, I'm dying for them, but I don't want to step on his toes. He's night. I'm just kind of, so I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, so as an artist, any fader, as an artist, to be an integrated, healthy, resourceful version of yourself, to be that craftsman, you know, if you're the artist, like there's skills involved in that, you know? So it sounds like to me that he would be a very frustrated, unresourceful artist because he wasn't having a good time. The team felt like he was dragging him down because he wasn't ready enough, but he didn't have those skills in his own abilities to get that raw material out and make it something that was working. So
I think it's also, like David said, there's some, you know, every ministry has volunteer artists who are so deeply committed, they're always prepared and they execute perfectly. Then there's people, just their lives are very busy and they're, you know, they're doing the best they can. But I think you'd shown that one example earlier of, you know, song notes, we call it set direction. But I think the other thing you mentioned when it ties all together, people step on the platform with confidence, no matter what their skill level, because they've had the information given to them that, look, this is where we need to have 4 on the floor. This is where we need to transition to 8 notes. And if they know that ahead of time, no matter where they are, the drummer, the bass player, the pianist, that seems to give some confidence. And they go, oh, wow, I can do this great. And all of a sudden, everyone feeds on each other. And I think those are also some of the amazing rehearsals that took, you know, we did 5 songs in an hour and 20 minutes or even less, even with a devotional in the front. And people like, yeah, I'm confident. So what gives them that confidence, I think, is what we're constantly trying to provide, you know, help to support them in that.
Yeah. Did you hear the producers' take on that though? They had information, so they were confident. And I think that's true, but that might not be giving me my confidence. I might not care about that information.
Right.
You know, I might just like, because you know why I was confident? Because we prayed beforehand and my bass player kept looking over at me and smiling and being like, yeah, dude, this is fun. And that gave me confidence. I wasn't even paying attention to the notes.
Mm.
Just saying.
Hey, we're coming to the end of our time here. So do you have a downloadable graphic or chart that has all this information?
Yep.
Okay. Is
I'll
that
send you the
something
link.
you'll send it to me and I can share it out? Okay,
Sure.
wonderful. Yeah, so is this published in a book, The 5 Faders?
Not yet.
All right. Is there where can we find the resources you have released? Like I know the Worship Fertilizer book and things like that.
If you go to adlibmusic.com and you can go, I think you can go to adlibmusic.com/5faders. It doesn't matter if you put the number 5 or spell it out. I mean, I can give you the actual link because it's actually it's under a section, but there we go. There you go.
Nice, sweet. There you go. So more information on the faders there. Can we say thanks to Dave Helmuth?
Thanks, Dave.
Give him our appreciation. It was really insanely amazing stuff. Like Darren said, very timely for a lot of us, I think. It's a good time to kind of get back to these important basics, as we've all basically at this point figured out how we're handling 2021, I would hope. Very helpful stuff. So we love you guys, and we will see you next time we do. Thanks for coming. All right. Bye, everybody. See ya.
Thanks.
Yep. This will be on YouTube.
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 Oh.